Information, where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.
In this episode of The Information, I'm going to be speaking with investigative journalist Mark Bennett regarding his experiences of using orgonite to enhance the process of growing various vegetables. We're going to be finding out whether or not there was any result at all, what kind of findings he was able to draw from this, and methods to perhaps recreate his trials for those that have a patch of land or a small garden and want to maybe give this a go. Okay, well, thanks for joining me today, Mark. It's good to get you on, and we stumbled across your stuff through a YouTube video regarding using orgonite to grow to enhance the process of growing various vegetables.
Well, the interesting thing about that is it wasn't just enhancing the vegetables themselves, but the growing season kept on going. It was like the footage that we have up there at the moment was filmed like at the beginning of November, while everything else was turning brown and going to mush. We had a full rainforest with the orgonite plants because we did a control group with everything. So we're doing everything proper and scientifically.
Yeah.
And the stuff with the orgonite, and it looked like it was the middle of summer and full bloom, and we had things 3 feet tall.
Wow.
And everything else, which would be at the end of October and November, just looked like death.
So how did you first find out about orgonites? And it's essentially it goes back to Wilhelm Reich.
Sure.
But how did you find out about this to be used to actually to aid the process of growing vegetables?
Well, I hadn't heard of it before. Basically, someone I know turns out to be making it, and an unidentified box arrived on my doorstep one day from this person, and with a very large quantity of orgonite in different shapes. So I said, I'll do something with this. I don't have a back garden. I'll start giving it away and seeing what happens to it, which is what I did. Now, I looked on some of the websites. Quebec Orgone was the first one that really had anything that resembled a real study. And that demonstrated kind of mass plant growth. So I said, okay, well, I'll try that. I'll give it to my neighbor who has an allotment now. And he's of a scientific background. He's Pete Barker, a local resident who's posing with vegetables, a variety of different sizes in some of the other photographs. And the funny thing is that I didn't hear anything for like 3 or 4 months. And then finally at the end of the month, I'm popping over to say hello. And he says, we have the new harvest coming. So, yeah, I'd do anything work. Because at this point, I really had no idea what it was and would it work and so on. I said, yeah, a bit of improvement. I said, oh, okay. Imagine like 10%, 30% improvement in plant size. And that's where the first photograph came from. In fact, that's actually taken along the metal sink. In fact, stupidly, I saw the results, and they were massive. And it's the one that went out in the first press release with the comparison of the same beets, same parsnips, and a penny. Annoyingly, though, he didn't take a photograph of it, and actually this is the second batch from the same garden because his wife had already pickled the first batch. So I then went on to do a really quick test, which I repeated twice, which was the seed germination. And by one of my professions is a photographer and filmmaker, so I'm really kind of, those photographs are haunting me, but I did get three times plant growth just by doing one tower buster underneath a glass. They're awful photos. I really cringed. I didn't think anything was going to happen, so I didn't do proper lighting set up or anything like that. The ones I've done further on along the lines are really well lit and really lovely photos. But the first seed germination tests I've done were pretty awful.
So
that produced that showed the results.
So what exactly is this stuff, orgonites? What does it consist of?
Well, it's really just quite simple. First, you need some cupcake containers, preferably silicone, and some silicone spray. It's metal filings of some sort, a resin, and a crystal of some sort. You can get fancy with clear quartz crystals, or, I mean, these days you can pick up quartz crystals off the beach, and that's fine.
Okay. So how does it link with orgone energy then? Is it charged with positive ions? Is that sort of how it works?
Positive ions are bad for you. I'd say it's charged with negative ions.
Right.
But I'm still working on various theories of how it works. I mean, it's producing massive results which are edible, which is the core thing. And there's a whole bunch of psychic phenomena associated with it as well for some people. I mean, the gifters, as they call them, like chucking them at transmission towers and Wi-Fi base stations and so on, which is fine. Go for it if you have that much money to float around. But kind of burying it in grounds to affect plant growth, I think, actually yields a result that you can do something with.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about slightly bigger. We're talking about, holy shit, this is huge. How do you feed a family on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when these trials occurred, which was, am I right? This was back in 2009, so it's relatively recently. This went on.
Yeah, we did two trials. We did two trials, and Pete started growing stuff with it as well.
Right.
We have a very disturbing asparagus lot that came out, and also a spring onion that looks like a leek, and a very large leek it is. So last year we had The Truth Is Out There follow-on documentaries, Ancient Knowledge, and the one on business conspiracies. So we were filming that, and we filmed all that. We also filmed I filmed an orgonite maker in Halifax who uses it for growing, but also for cleaning up toxic environments and or healing in various ways. I generally just stick to the vegetables because it's just street level science. It's like, this is big, this is small. Guess which one that came from the orgonite?
So, what about, have you used this stuff for anything else besides growing? So, I mean, I know, for example, that with orgones, you can actually you create things like cloud busters, for example, also chem busters. So, some sort of methods are used to suppress chemtrails. Have you dabbled with any of that stuff as well?
You need a bigger setup, and you need a bit more money and resins and so on to actually do that. I'm looking at different ways to make these things. Apparently, you can make them with sand and so on, but you still need the copper piping and so on. Not having a backyard really affects what you can do vis-a-vis making this stuff yourself.
Sure, yeah. So, with regards to the trials, then, would you say that the result of this was that they were pretty successful? I mean, what were the findings? I mean, from the YouTube video,
the finding was pretty consistent. Yeah. Sometimes nothing happened at all. Can't tell. Sometimes, but other times we were getting large, consistent plant growth. Again, I'm really surprised that all these people out there who are playing with orgonite and making it in various ways are afraid of science. These guys are literally afraid of science. They don't want to document. They don't want to share any information. Or if they do, they don't actually be able to analyze it correctly. It's like people who, with digital cameras that can take a gazillion photographs, but can't tell which one's good.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was part. It brought up some real interesting psychological reactions. Not so much for the fact that it worked or not. It's the fact that the people didn't want it to work. I had people angry at me for suggesting you can make giant vegetables, and why would you do that? And, it's all GMO. And I said, well, no, it's not. All these are heirloom seeds, and all these are controlled conditions, and all we did a side-by-side comparison. The funniest thing was actually seeing the local Green MP canvassing, and I was literally two blocks away. We had boxes and boxes of orgonite and to give away, and with cameras. And I said, come on. I mean, they had three people on the freaking stand, and I said, pop over and pick up the free orgonite and try it. Wouldn't giant vegetables and vast quantities of organic food be a good thing to the Green Party? And I couldn't get them to budge.
They just didn't go for it.
Literally couldn't get them to budge. Walk one block, take 10 minutes, pick up some orgonite, and start doing it.
Wow.
So, Greenpeace, are they doing it? I don't think so.
It's surprising.
Yeah, surprising. Well, we want actual results, guys, and here's some already. Oh, we don't want to talk about that. We're too busy trying to get your name on a list or something.
Yeah.
So hashing, high street. I mean, likewise, if you've ever dealt with any media, which is quite fun, I had the BBC Gardening Time track me down after I've done a national press release, and they called up and started talking. They said, "Is the trial still running?" I said, "Oh yeah, we still have lots. Anyone with a garden is welcome to join. We'll give you a camera and everything, blah, blah, blah." And I'm reading the press release, and that was like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Okay, yeah, okay, and we're still running it. We're still trying to find people who live in the Brighton area who want to pop into Brighton to pick up the Orgonite and etc. Yeah, but the press release was written 2 weeks ago, so that I can hear the penny drop in my mind as I say, "Well, would you like me to send you another press release that has next week's date on it?" She shut up at that point.
Yeah.
I did actually get interviewed by the Gardeners program, so don't know what happened with that.
Okay. Was it not aired then? Not used?
I think so, but it's not something I'd actually listen to. I mean, you're being interviewed in real time.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
So, do you think that perhaps the reaction from Greenpeace, etc., do you think it possibly goes back to the fact that Wilhelm Reich and just his orgone theory in the first place, it's kind of perceived as perhaps controversial and arguably not proven science, and I think there's certainly an undertone of that perhaps when you approach this subject.
I think we're smart enough these days to actually look past that, and if you're still clinging to old modalities, then you're going to be in trouble. Because the dogma is thick and it's very, it's thick.
Yeah.
And it doesn't allow for nimble movement between ideas at all. And like I said, I'll try any ideas. I mean, the one way I describe those orgone is it as a metaphor, and nothing else. Was, okay, you have your next door neighbor and your flatmates around you playing heavy metal music. Are you going to be able to stay to do your studying for your degree? And most people will say no. They would rather have some calm classical something playing in the background. So the metaphor I work to is that, okay, well, there's something obviously happening, and maybe what it's doing is squelching the EM noise or the RF radiation noise or the whatever else noise there is. And it's like a passive circuit, I would say. It's not something like a windmill. So if it's not blowing, nothing's going to happen. So if you don't have a draft of toxic, whatever it happens to be, you're not going to get much of an effect out of it. And conversely, I've actually been able to spot people who have negative effects, and I think that has to do with intention. I think there's some sort of intention magnifier in there. So just use it, drop it, forget about it, and see what happens.
And there's things like ion meters you can buy. Do you have one of those? Have you sort of used one of those to sort of aid this process? Positive.
Probably because they're very expensive. I've avoided them.
Yeah.
Although the positive ion, negative ion thing has really come to the forelight in the last 2 months. Brighton Council, this entire area is over the EU limits on pollution.
Right.
And with pollution, you have positive ions. So all of the entire purpose of the Londoners coming down to Brighton, or in some of the south anyway, for the fresh sea negative ion air is avoided because the pollution levels are so high. Also, back on the perceived reality, there is a green shipping container type thing, about a quarter size in Sherlock Street, and there's one in Brighton, ironically next to my GP's office, which people tend to ignore, and people don't question what it is, and people don't ask why there's an air conditioning unit from RV van on top of it, or all the scientific bits that are sticking out of it, collecting data and sending it somewhere. Not a question, not a bat of the eye, and yet, in fact, what it is a DEFRA pollution monitoring system. And if you go on your website, you can actually find out how much pollution there is in the air. Although comparing some notes from the EU levels to that map shows that it's been jimmied so that it's not accurate. So if you want to hide a spaceship, paint it military green, and no one will bother you.
Right.
I mean, come on, we just sent shit out into space, out of the solar system, with flexi discs and pictures and so on it.
Yeah.
And no one's asking what the hell this thing is, and might, if it's collecting data on the level of pollution that people and pram pushing mothers are pushing around town, they don't think to ask, is it not affecting my body in some way?
Yeah, I think people unfortunately just assume that it's there for their kind of well-being, and it's not doing anything nasty, and they're living in a happy state of ignorance, I guess, a lot of the time with these topics, unfortunately. Do you, out of interest, feel that perhaps the Greens, etc., they may be against, they're not necessarily against this, but they're not willing to embrace the idea because it is effective and that it could actually alter the paradigm and kind of take farming back, give it back to the people.
It's doing great things in West Africa. I know that because I'm in contact with some of the people out there doing it. I've been sending them cameras to take photographs of their giant corn and such, which has very little water. So we're talking about something that actually produces real results. And politics is not about real results; it's about management.
Yeah. And they don't want abundance, I guess, because then it's all about the control factor. If there's abundance,
well, sure, you can make more money if you can increase the cost of water.
Yeah.
I mean, do bills ever go down?
That's it. That's what it's all about, I guess.
It's really pathetic, but tragically it's true.
Yeah.
And they're so scared that the possibilities. I mean, this is why Nikola Tesla's inventions were buried, and God knows what else there is. There's a war on imagination is the only way to put it. And even something as obvious as the JSA, in my opinion, is actually designed so that people are kept at a certain level where they can't actually create real solutions. I mean, go into any organization, you can talk to people, and they'll come up with countless ways to fix whatever they're in, but are they allowed to do it?
Yeah, no, it seems to be a pattern there with all sorts of subjects and walks of life, is that there is this sense that there is this suppression to try and keep the status quo, and like you say, Tesla is a prime example of that. This whole thing about free energy debate, and there's all sorts of interesting theories about that and how that's being suppressed. All of that knowledge, they're literally sitting on it, doing nothing with it.
I mean, an obvious one to look into, and you're probably already aware of it, is hemp use. I mean,
yeah,
how useful is that plant? And why are we not using it?
Yeah.
Why are we so busy cutting down trees?
Absolutely, and I mean the whole hemp subject is fascinating because, like you say, it's got so many usages that it's just suppressed, and it's legislated against to the point where it's perceived as this evil thing that nobody should talk about, which is just craziness.
Yeah, it's bad. It's also a lot of bad magic. I mean, I have an idea for a documentary with that as the major theme. I imagined to get two magicians onto my follow-on to The Truth Is Out There with Dean Haglund, which is Ancient Mysteries and Business as Usual, as we call it, and basically talking about politics as a large-scale arena for really bad magic. Ooh, it's the gypsies. Ooh, we don't have enough money. Yeah, but we paid the money in so we would have this life raft so we can actually sign on when we need to. When the business turn out, oh no, it's not yours anymore. It's like, grow a pair and do something from the heart.
Yeah, no, that's it. So, Mark, I guess to wrap it up, a good question to ask is: do you have any tips for people who potentially may want to recreate some of this stuff and in their own gardens, perhaps try and
the first thing you want to do is to prove that something happens. So what you do is you get some It's sprouts, preferably something, a large sprout of some sort. So if hippies can do this, it should be pretty straightforward. Get 2 glasses identical, put one underneath one of them and put nothing underneath the other one, or a roll of tape or something that's roughly about the same size, and then start there. Now, within a week, you'll know that something's happening. You can also try putting it underneath your pillow, and the other trick people do is try to freeze ice cubes with it underneath. Some people get stalagmites coming out, just really weird, pretty freaky as well. We have out of the ice cubes all these little points coming out of the ice cubes, growing up into the freezer. So that's the obvious thing. If you have more than one of them, also try sticking one underneath your pillow, see what happens at night. Some people get freaky dreams, and people who are energy sensitive, like crystal healers and Reiki people and so on, get strong reactions off them as well.
Okay,
it's a good starting part for a quiz with entertainment.
Yeah, that's it. It's all worth a try at the end of the day, and it's easy to do, and it's not hard to kind of utilize this knowledge really. So that's great.
Yeah, just don't put much baggage or expectations or dislike into it. Just do it. I mean, the people who we know that are really uptight people, we've given Orgonite to, and we know that they'll chuck it within about a week or so, or 2 weeks, because they'll start blaming everything in the universe on it. Apparently, people who work with crystals can get the same effect just like putting crystals into the garden as well. So something is affecting the vibration. And like I said, the ambient circuit idea is the one I'm sticking to, because it kind of fits into it. But people make the assumption that there's some sort of closed system, which we're not. I mean, just breathing the air, we're giving out carbon dioxide and breathing in whatever the car which is passing by is spitting out. And that's not even going about what negative or positive ion count is because of your environment or the weather or whatever.
Well, Mark, that's been really fascinating. So thank you very much for taking part in this episode, and it's been really interesting. So thanks again, Mark.
No, I can provide you with some links to where to get it, but it's either you can make it yourself or buy some on eBay.
Brilliant, and I'll provide those links in the podcast description, so listeners can certainly check that information out.
Right now.
Thanks, Mark.
No worries.
The information where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.